Congressional reception. I'm Catherine Swatch, Vice Chair of the PALCUS Board of Directors, and I welcome you on behalf of Angela Costa Simões, the PALCUS Chairwoman who is unable to be with us this evening and is quite regretful over that. We're honored to have with us some very special guests. His Excellency Domingos Fezes Vital, Ambassador of Portugal to the U.S., members of the Friends of Portugal in the U.S. Senate and the Portuguese-American Caucus of the House of Representatives. Thank you for joining us. The Friends of Portugal in the U.S. Senate was created to serve as the parallel body of the Portuguese-American Caucus in the House of Representatives in 1995. It was first co-chaired by Senator Ben Nighthorse Campbell from Colorado until 2005, and Senator Jack Reed from Rhode Island, who still co-chairs, along with Senator Patrick Toomey from Pennsylvania. There are 8 senators in the caucus today representing Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, California, and Pennsylvania. I'd like to invite Senator Reed to say a few words.
Thank you so much, and it is a pleasure to be here this evening. My colleague, Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, who's also a member of the caucus, was here, and Congressman David Cicilline and Congressman Jim Langevin are very active in the House caucus. That's because Rhode Island has a very strong bond with the people of Portugal. My mother grew up at Fox Point, part of Providence, which was so Portuguese, she understood Portuguese. She spoke it fluently, even though her name was Mary Louise Monahan. The only word I can remember, and this shows a lot about me, was Calaboca. So I must have been a pretty obnoxious, anyway, I won't go into that. I certainly want to recognize the ambassador. Ambassador Vital, thank you for your good work representing Portugal. We have so much in common. We are both committed to ideals of freedom and justice. We are partners in NATO. We are partners in so many different things. And I will just simply reflect on the fact that so much of our country has been built by strong and proud Portuguese Americans. We have a great debt to them. They, like other people who have come here, they're Americans, but they're Americans with a particular spirit of industry and decency, and we celebrate that. And on behalf of the Senate, Portuguese-American Caucus, welcome, and thank you very, very much. Thank you.
I'd like to now read a message from the Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, who's forwarded this message to us with best wishes on the occasion of this congressional reception. From the Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, message to the congressional reception of the Portuguese-American Leadership Council of the United States, Washington, D.C., 25th of October, 2017. It is a pleasure to greet the Portuguese-American Leadership Council of the United States on the occasion of your congressional reception. Thank you for everything you do to promote the well-being of the Portuguese-American community. I particularly welcome your focus on young people. Portuguese Americans have a long and distinguished history and continue to make contributions that enrich both the United States and Portugal. Like so many other communities, you are showing that diversity is a richness. At a moment of rising intolerance around the world, that is a timely and important message. The world faces serious challenges from climate change and armed conflict to poverty and prejudice, but we also have remarkable opportunities to transform our world for the better. The United Nations will count on your leadership and support. One might say that by virtue of having taken up my duties earlier this year and living in New York City, I am, at least temporarily, part of your community. I look forward to working together in the spirit of our shared heritage to build a future of peace and dignity for all. Please accept my best wishes for a memorable gathering. The Portuguese-American Caucus of the House of Representatives was established in 1995 with 38 congressmen. It was founded by Congressman Patrick J. Kennedy from Rhode Island and co-chaired with Congressman Richard Pombo from California until Congressman Pombo left office in 2017. Today we count 25 congressmen chaired by Jim Costa from California, David Valadão from California, David Cicilline from Rhode Island, and Lee Zeldin from New York. I'd like to invite Congressman Jim Costa, who just arrived, great timing, co-host of this reception, to come to the podium and say a few words on behalf of the House Caucus. Congressman Costa. You couldn't have timed your entrance any better. We won't even make you put on a name tag.
Como está, senhora?
Bem, obrigada.
Tudo bem?
Tudo bem.
Tem muitos problemas agora?
Não, não tenho problemas agora.
Muitos problemas aqui.
Ok.
Hello, everyone. And it is indeed my honor, along with all my colleagues, to greet you here in our nation's capital. PALCUS is an important effort on behalf of Portuguese-Americans throughout our country to do so many important efforts that allow our community's voices to be heard. And it's had a rich history, and obviously the challenges we face together are ones that require an organization like PALCUS to exist. And if it did not, David, come here, my colleague and co-chair of the Portuguese caucus, and we work closely together. But if PALCUS didn't exist, we'd have to create it because it's important and it's necessary. I apologize that we were unable to attend the annual banquet in New York a week ago, I think, 2 weeks ago. But I saw the pictures. It looked like it was a very good occasion. We did provide the Congressional recognition for those who were awarded, and we offer our congratulations here this evening. I want to say that as members of the Portuguese caucus, a bipartisan group of members, our goals every year are to, one, promote U.S.-Portuguese relations. Portugal was the second country in the world to recognize the United States after our independence, and it has been one of the longest alliances that have existed in the world between the United States and Portugal. And that relationship has withstood the test of time. And Portugal has always been a reliable member of NATO. And we obviously are focused on trying to look at the best way to repurpose our resources as it relates to the Azores and lodges. And we're working with our ambassador on the visa tourist issue. And those are among the issues that David and I and other members of the Portuguese caucus work on behalf of U.S.-Portuguese relations. But the important thing is that each and every one of you that are involved as members of PALCUS and the roles that you play, that you understand that it's important and it makes a difference. It makes a difference to those of us in the Portuguese caucus, and it makes a difference, I think, to our Portuguese communities throughout the country. And so I want to give you the very best of wishes this evening. I assume that we have some very good Portuguese wine. I haven't seen it yet, but I would hope so.
I confess I don't know if it's Portuguese or not because I haven't had any. But
Well, I know the ambassador would feel that would be the appropriate thing to do. Mr. Ambassador and other officials here from PALCUS and the Portuguese government, we always give you warm greetings. As I tell the ambassador, every Portuguese ambassador, we are graciously invited to the embassy, sua casa e minha casa. And that's the way we feel when we are the Portuguese ambassador's residence. So without further ado, if you want me to introduce our co-chair, or do you want me to
certainly say a few words, yes.
Spanish?
Spanish, yes. Very good.
Yes. A gentleman who I've had the pleasure to know for years, his family and my family go way back. As a matter of fact, his parents and my mother's side of the family, my grandmother's side, came from the same freguesia in the Ilha de Terceira, the freguesia de Ribeirinha. So we don't know if we're related, but we could be. It's not that big of a village. But I am so proud of David Valadal's accomplishments and his success, not only in the California State Legislature, but here in Congress. I'm proud and honored to call him a colleague and a co-chair of Please give a warm welcome to Congressman David Vivi Valadao.
There's only a few people that use the word David when they call me. So, a couple of my friends growing up and my parents. Well, welcome. Thank you all for being here. I know I'll be meeting with some of you tomorrow, and I know that Jim spoke quite a bit about the efforts that we do. Yeah, Portugal and the U.S. has had a long relationship, and we want to make sure we continue that. We've always had strong representation from Portugal to the U.S. Our ambassadors have always done a great job. But we also need all of you and working the Hill and talking to folks as well, helping to build the relationships. There are a lot of other countries that have worked for a lot longer than us, and I think we've got a little bit catching up to do. And I think you guys are on a good path to do that. And I'm glad that that you're all here. And I know that we've got George here from Nunes's office. I don't think Devin's going to be able to make it, is he? But no, there are. It's important for us all. And as my parents are Portuguese immigrants themselves, I grew up in a household in the Portuguese community. Still to this day, try to be as active as I possibly can in the local community. It's important that we continue to work together and continue to build on the next generation to understand what the heritage is and how great it's been for a lot of us. So thank you for being here. And we've got a colleague here. Leonard Lance from New Jersey. So thank you all for being here, and I'll introduce Mr. Lance from New Jersey. Leonard Lance. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And my purpose here is to welcome you to the Energy and Commerce Committee room. This is our main hearing room for the oldest committee in the House, first established in 1795. And it and the Ways and Means Committee are considered, I think, immodestly, the two most important committees in the House. You're not allowed to be on both, and most members are on neither. And this is the committee that deals with the commerce of the United States, and it's named for Congressman Dingell, recently retired, who had served in the House from 1955 until 3 years ago, the longest tenure of service in the history of the United States. He was preceded by his father, and he has been succeeded by his wife, Debbie Dingell, who is a member of our committee and who sits on that side of the dais. And certainly we welcome you. The district I serve in New Jersey has descendants of immigrants from all over the world, including Portugal, and I'm pleased that several of the constituents whom I serve are in the audience this evening. You're welcome on Capitol Hill at any time, and certainly we believe that the strength of this nation is based upon its strong immigrant heritage, and may that continue. We want a strong and vibrant United States based upon those who have chosen to live here either personally or through ancestors. And we hope in your visits in Capitol Hill that you will be welcomed cordially by all of us. And while you're in Washington, please spend a lot of money. We need the tax revenue. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
As a resident of Clark, New Jersey, it's a pleasure to have you here today, so I'm definitely one of your constituents. Since its founding, PALCUS has enjoyed a strong and positive partnership with the Embassy of Portugal in the United States. Ambassador Domingos Fezes Vital has been an integral part of that partnership in the last few years. It's my honor to invite to the podium the Ambassador of the Republic of Portugal, His Excellency Domingos Fezes Vital.
Thank you very much, Catherine. I've been coming so often to the Congress lately that I'm still starting to feel at home in the Congress. I'm not sure whether this is politically correct, but this is my feeling. Well, dear senators, congressmen, members of PALCUS, dear friends, the international situation is quite complex. We are facing some dangerous challenges, but I would say that there is no challenge as dangerous as having a politician or an ambassador starting his remarks by saying, "I will be brief." But I will do my best. I would like to start by thanking the sponsors who made this event possible, but most of all, PALCUS itself for organizing this meeting. PALCUS has a new leadership, a leadership for the future, and I would like to start by welcoming this leadership. I understand that the new president of PALCUS is not with us today because she's pregnant, but I couldn't see a better contribution to a lively Portuguese-American community than giving birth. So I would like to salute our dear Angela Simões and say that without being here with us, she is with us today. PALCUS is also the image of a Portuguese community which is increasingly more influential and more present in the economic, social, academic, and political fabric of this country. I would also like to thank the presence of so many members of the Congress, our dear friends, congressmen, who are members of the Portuguese caucus and members of the group of Friends of Portugal. Having listened to them, you can understand why they get elected and re-elected every election. I would like to thank them very much for their support every day. Today, I promise I will spare you. I'm not going to talk about Lajes, the E2 visas, and all these questions I used to talk to you about. But I would like sincerely to thank you very, very much for your entire support. Just a last word to remind you that next year, in June, we will have with us in the United States the President of the Portuguese Republic and the Prime Minister. They will be celebrating with us the National Day. Portugal is the only country I know whose National Day is Day of Portugal, Camões, and our communities abroad. And this means that without our communities, Portugal is not complete. And so, when they come to celebrate our country with the communities, they are celebrating the country as a whole with us. And I see this as a big opportunity to show the strength of our relations with the United States and the strength of its most important asset, which is the Portuguese-American community. A community, and sometimes we do not know that according to all American indicators, is now wealthier and more educated by far than the American average. So my proposal is to make this moment a moment of reflection about what we are and what this community wants to be in the future. You will be, all of you, convened for this meeting, for this occasion, that would be, we hope, the first convention of the Portuguese-American community. Everybody together to think about the present and about the future. To conclude, to sum up, let's turn into reality the words of our great poet, Fernando Pessoa. He said, Deus quer, o homem sonha, a obra nasce. God wills, the man dreams, and the work is born. Let's make these words true. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you, Your Excellency. As I mentioned previously, Chairwoman Angela Simões is unable to be with us here this evening for very good reasons. She sends her heartfelt gratitude for your presence here and wants me to let you all know that she is here in spirit. She and I would especially like to thank the generous sponsors of this event, Florentino Gregorio from Anchor Construction, Aníbal Ramos from Potomac Concrete, Zulmira Moraes from Virginia Contractors Supply, Ferguson Construction, Fort Myer Construction, and Lunaire Media. Thank you for your support. We could not have done this event without you. I would like to share with you Angela's greetings and an outline of some of the new initiatives that PALCUS has launched to strengthen government relations and civic engagement. A message from the PALCUS Chair, Angela Costa Simões. Welcome, everyone, to the PALCUS Annual Congressional Reception. This reception was first held in the early 90s when the Portuguese-American Caucus and Friends of Portugal were first formed. We have hosted a few since then, and moving forward, we plan to host them annually. In fact, there are many initiatives, new and existing, that PALCUS is launching or reviving in an effort to maintain strong engagement with the Portuguese-American Caucus, Friends of Portugal, and other key government influencers and community leaders. These initiatives were designed to engage lawmakers and the community in conversation and action. We have a handout that highlights these programs, but please allow me to highlight just a few of the most exciting ones. Our new Politicus podcast, where we highlight the stories of elected officials in our communities, both to inspire more Portuguese Americans to get involved in public service and also take action to advocate for the issues that are of most importance to them. Our elected officials should all be expecting an interview request in the coming weeks, so heads up. A national database of all elected officials is being worked on at the local, state, and federal levels, both Portuguese American and those non-Portuguese who represent the Portuguese constituencies. We already have the Gateway, which is a database of Portuguese businesses and organizations, and this database will be expanded to include the elected officials' information as well as demographic info about each city, state, and region. The biannual meeting of Luso-American elected officials held here in Washington, D.C. in collaboration with the Embassy of Portugal. This year, we're expanding the meeting to include community leaders and host a true national conference to explore ways to encourage more Portuguese Americans to run for office and participate in public service. This year's meeting will be held in conjunction with the annual PALCUS Gala and will also be supported by the Luso-American Foundation of Lisbon. Save the date. It's on Friday, June 29th, 2018, right here in Washington, D.C. We're very excited to have the President of Portugal, Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa, and the Prime Minister of Portugal, Antonio Costa, visiting our communities in June of 2018 to help celebrate Portugal Day throughout the country. We will be sure to inform you and your staff members of events happening here in D.C. and in the local communities. And finally, the first ever national survey of Portuguese Americans, known as the PALCUS Index. This survey will provide invaluable insight into the minds and hearts of the national Portuguese community. Where do they spend their time, their money, what issues keep them up at night, how connected are they to Portugal? By conducting this survey annually, we will be able to see changes over time and if our efforts are in fact having an impact on the community. So far, in this survey, we have more than 1,200 responses nationwide, and some of the early results are quite interesting. We were happy to see that our community is a voting community with 76.7%, stating that they vote regularly in elections, which is 20 points higher than the national average of 55%. 35% have called or written their elected officials, and 30% contribute to political campaigns. From an overall social and political perspective, the biggest concerns in our community are our country's political leadership, the U.S. going to war, terrorism, or the U.S. limiting immigration. From an overall personal and economic perspective, the biggest concerns are cost of education, access to health care, saving for retirement, Social Security and Medicare, and an increase in taxes. This is just a small glimpse inside the mind of our community, and I doubt any of these concerns are a surprise to anyone here. It just reinforces for us where we need to focus our efforts on behalf of the Portuguese community so that they know their concerns are being heard and addressed. A full report of all this data will be published in a couple months, but we do have a handout here tonight with some additional details if you'd like to take it with you. The great thing about surveys is that you get a ton of really great comments that provide even further insight and context. As we have such a large Azorean population here in the U.S., it's no surprise that the subject of the Lajes Air Base on the island of Terceira in the Azores came up quite a bit. I'm sure Angela's pleased that the ambassador didn't bring this up himself first. Here's one area where our community desperately needs the help of both caucuses. We need the U.S. to maintain its presence in Lajes and execute a plan that will help stimulate the economy in the area. I know that you're all familiar with the challenges, but it's not an impossible problem to solve. Speaking of problems not too impossible to solve, we are pleased to recognize that the governments of Timor-Leste and Australia are very close to reaching an agreement on the maritime borders dispute. PALCUS and the national Portuguese-American community have long been supporters of the people of Timor-Leste and their fight for independence, and we are so thrilled at this great news. Having an impact in all of these areas requires the full support of all members of the caucus and friends, and we also need your help to strengthen these groups with new members who represent districts and states with high populations of Portuguese people. For example, California has the highest number of Portuguese in the country, and yet only 8 congressional districts are represented in the caucus. So as you can see, we have our work cut out for us, but we are excited about the opportunities, and we look forward to working with all of you and your staff in the coming months and years to take action on all of these important items. Thank you again for attending this evening, and I personally look forward to working with you. Angela Costa-Simões, Chairwoman, PALCUS Board of Directors. So we are fortunate to have a number of House Caucus members with us tonight. Co-chair David Cicilline, as well as Jim Langevin. I'm sorry if I'm butchering the name. Langevin. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. And Representative Sheila Jackson-Lee from Texas, and Representative Joe Kennedy as well. I'd also like to introduce the PALCUS directors who are here with us this evening. Please raise your hand or take a quick bow as I mention your name. Fernando Rosa from Connecticut, past chair and treasurer. Marie Fraley from Rhode Island, secretary and managing director. Manuel Giraldo, senior, assistant treasurer. Cynthia Russo, our internship chair from New Jersey. Annabella de Cruz Mello from New Jersey. Manuel Giraldo II from DC. Feel free to speak to them about any of our projects and initiatives. They'd be more than happy to give you some more info. Also joining us today are some of our charter members, Mr. and Mrs. Manuel Fernandez from Yonkers, New York, and Dr. Victor Mensch, representing the institutional charter member, Center for Portuguese Studies and Culture, University of Massachusetts, Dartmouth. Thank you all for traveling to Washington, D.C. to join us today. Recently in Yonkers, New York, PALCUS held its 21st Annual Leadership Awards Gala. It was our special honor to welcome as the keynote speaker His Excellency, Kay Rala Shanana Guzman, First President, former Prime Minister, and Chief Negotiator for the Democratic Republic of Timor-Leste of the Maritime Boundary Dispute. PALCUS has supported Timor-Leste's independence since its early years of struggle for autonomy, and we're pleased to have members of that delegation with us tonight. Mac Bernstein and Jessica Woolley of D.L. Piper, and Tony Simon of Simon Consulting. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you for joining us, and please convey our warmest regards to our newest honorary member, Shanana Guzman. Again, on behalf of Angela Simões, myself, and the entire PALCUS board, thank you for taking the time to join us here. We have some handouts on our initiatives available for your information. Please feel free to spend the remainder of the time with us discussing issues of importance to our community. And feel free to contact us at any time with any of your thoughts and suggestions. Enjoy the remainder of the reception. Thank you.